Yeah.
Good afternoon. My name is Jim Conlan and welcome to the latest episode of our entertainment show. As you know, in part 3 each week, we premiere a new TV series and movie or new TV series or movies that are debuting here in Ireland for this upcoming month. And up for special discussion this week is a new sort of comedy satire sort of TV series that is heading our way. It's based on the supernatural, but it's got a sort of a teenage sort of adolescence team running through it. It's a vampire sort of story with the twist. It's called Reginald the Vampire. It's airing on Channel Sky Sci-Fi here in Ireland and the UK. In fact, it's debuting next week, I do believe, in terms of for all our audience and TV viewers here in Ireland that can get to see it. And we're talking about the cast. Jacob Batalon plays Reginald Baskin. We've Emily Haine, who plays his love interest, Sarah. We have Mandela Van Peebles, who plays Maurice Miller. Savannah Basley, who plays the antagonist in the TV series, Ashley. And one of our special guests this evening, she plays the character Penelope, a sort of vampire in the sort of series as well. The one and only Georgia Waters. And Georgia, first of all, a pleasure to speak to us today. And first of all, I might ask you, a UK actor, obviously an awful lot of background to your story, an awful lot of projects in the past. And how did you wind up there, I say, in British Columbia, in Vancouver, shooting a TV series called Reginald the Vampire? Was this through the traditional talent agent process, or were you sort of scouted or sounded out for that role?
It was very much through the traditional talent agent process. So I got an audition through in COVID times, so you kind of tape it yourself at home, and then you have the callback, which is on Zoom like this, trying to do the audition to the producers and directors whilst hoping no one walks in, there's no building works going on. So it's a bit more stressful than normal auditions, but yeah, most actors will be experiencing that at the moment.
And obviously you did the Zoom auditions. Were you based in the USA or Canada at the time when you were doing the Zoom sessions, or were you doing them here at home in England?
I was actually in Vancouver doing them, so
okay,
that helped with the time zone, definitely, because I had filmed a different, also mystical kind of TV show called Siren, where I played a mermaid before that, and that was also filmed in Vancouver.
Oh, so you were currently in Vancouver at the time. You finished one project, so you were looking for a similar opportunity within Vancouver, and this sort of came your way.
Yeah, because I've now based myself in Vancouver, because a lot gets filmed there. Like, you'd be surprised about how many Netflix shows or Amazon Prime shows are all out there. There's a lot of work, which is great.
And I suppose you mentioned Vancouver before we go into Reginald the Vampire, and Vancouver would have been known in the past for probably a hub of sci-fi. It was the sci-fi capital of the world in terms of TV series. We think of Stargate, we think of Battlestar Galactica, huge sort of sci-fi drama series that came from Vancouver, British Columbia. But it's certainly opened its doors now to all different types of genres in terms of TV series. Ginny and Georgia, which is on Netflix, that came out of Vancouver as well. So Reginald the Vampire, this is a new comedy sort of with a twist as well. So Vancouver is definitely bridging away from its domain as being dubbed just sci-fi and sci-fi only.
Yeah, it definitely is. And yeah, as I said, Netflix has a lot that's filming out there, like House of Usher, The Haunting of Hill House, that was all out there. I mean, it's definitely a lot of moody films and TV get set there because you have a lot of mist and rain and the huge trees, the mountains and green. So it lends itself to that, definitely. I don't think you'd get stuff that was meant to be sunny California stuff, because we get a lot of rain.
And Georgia, we're going to move on now to Reginald the Vampire. And for our audience and people that mightn't have heard about this sort of story as much. Is it along the lines of Sabrina the Teenage sort of witch sort of story, or is it something sort of different? How would you best explain it to viewers that mightn't have heard of it or seen the trailer, dare I say?
Yeah, I mean, tonal wise, it's probably similar to Sabrina-esque, but the lead role, Jacob, he's playing a little bit older, so probably, you know, the age of like young 20s rather than teens, so kind of the little age above that. And then it's kind of a fusion of what we do in the shadows and like a more traditional Dracula-esque, so it's very much a comedy fused with the kind of more serious drama-esque side, because there are some serious storylines interwoven there, but it kind of uses comedy and absurdity to kind of take you along the ride and bring you into the world and make you engage with the characters.
And is there a day and night sort of elements to it? Is the daytime the sort of common life, common story, and then nighttime is that bit of supernatural element? Is most of the supernatural we see taking place at night times? Dare I say, do the fangs come out when the dark sets upon us?
Well, I would say you do actually get a lot of the vampires in the daytime as well, which is kind of fun playing with that world and what happens when vampires go into the world. So yeah, you kind of get plays between, but we have the vampire world and like the vampire coven, and then you have the slushy shack, which is kind of where the humans work. But throughout the season you see the complications of when those two worlds come together, and both in comedy and more serious, and also in the lovely warm-hearted romance as well.
And tell us about your character now, Penelope, in terms of, does she have a particular backstory before she was a sort of vampire, dare I say? Do we get to unravel a deep sort of plots behind her? Is she a woman of mystique and sort of interest, dare I say, or is she very much the common typical vampire stereotype?
I think when you come across her, she seems very stereotypical vampire. She's the kind of the vacuous but dangerous but seductive vampire, the stereotype. But her backstory is that she was changed in the Victorian era. A lot of her clothing is very Victorian style still, and big hair. But then as the series unfolds, you might see that she's not necessarily as selfish as she might come across, and there are quite a few fun scenes in there as well. So yeah, you see her
dare I say
situations.
Dare I say, is she a bit of a temptress to begin with?
Yes, definitely. That's her first mode operandi. She loves to tempt and play with people, and she delights in being a vampire. She really enjoys the danger that they can bring to other people. But then I think she questions it a little bit as the series goes on. So yeah.
Yeah, and we have 10 episodes in season 1. In terms of the production now and the shooting in Vancouver, you mentioned you did your auditions online because of COVID sort of process, but in terms of the shooting, was it a long shoot? 10 episodes, I imagine roughly around 2 months, I imagine no more than 2 months where you started shooting 10 episodes?
Yeah, we started the beginning of November or end of October, and we went through to the beginning of March, I think.
Okay, so was it long enough start to shoot?
Right.
You were a good 5 to 6 months.
We had Christmas and New Year's off, so we had a month in the middle off.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think because of COVID, everything kind of takes a little bit longer. If someone's got COVID, then everything has to shut down for a week. So that definitely complicated things a bit. But it was fun because it was filmed in Victoria, which is on Vancouver Island, and so all the cast were over on the island, and we were in most of us were in the same hotel, which was fun. So we'd have like dinner together and all exploring the city a bit together, which it felt like being at university again. It was fun.
Okay, so wild college parties, dare I say, come 12 o'clock.
Probably more quiet, isolated glasses of wine.
Quite
Because
isolated.
we were all on high COVID alert of trying not to catch COVID. But it made it more fun when you could hang out together, even though you couldn't go anywhere else.
And Georgia, in terms of the shoot now, was there an awful lot of, what dare I say, was it shot in sequence, or was there a good lot of block shooting, or block shooting done in terms of shooting on location, in terms of maybe different episodes were shot at the one time given the location, or was it sort of ran in sort of sequence? Did you know what storylines might be from episodes to episode, or were you very much waiting each week to see what would come the next way when one episode was wrapped up?
I think when we started, we had the first 6 or 7 episodes, so we kind of knew what was happening, but things did, as it happens with television, scripts get changed off from week to week as well. We block shot 2 episodes at a time, so and you do that by location as well. So there were some days where I was filming scenes from actually 3 or 4 different episodes, which you definitely had to have your brain in the right gear, make sure, okay, this is the stage I'm at, this scene, this is the stage I'm at. And also hair and makeup had to remember all of that as well, which gets quite hard when there's blood involved as well.
As always, the sort of special effects as well, and I imagine the fangs had to come on and come off. And what were they like? Were they comfortable? Were they prosthetic, or were they sort of elastic sort of thing for coming from the back of your molars? Or how did the whole sort of vampire sort of thing sort of play out in terms of how they rigged you out?
It was actually really clever. They had like a retainer, but just for your back teeth, and that covered your fang teeth, your incisors. And they had the vampire sharp bit on, so you kind of slotted them in on each side.
Was it comfortable?
It was okay. I had to wear teeth as well when I filmed Siren, when I was a mermaid for that. When we were underwater, we had big fangs. So I've kind of been trained in having to do fangs, but you do get a little bit of a lisp when you talk. That's the hard bit, is trying to give lines when you've got 2 big fangs.
And Georgia, I know it's a busy time for you as well in terms of projects in the works pipeline. Obviously, there's certain things you can't discuss or disclose due to privacy issues, but have you anything coming our way in the near future for here that's debuting in the UK and Ireland in terms of our TV screens, movie screens, that you can enlighten us about?
Yeah, well, I do. I don't know if I can enlighten you. So there'll be a new TV show out next year, which is a Hulu series. I don't know if I can share yet what my role is, but it's actually a departure from Siren and Reginald, the kind of sci-fi world. It's actually, I play a human in modern times. So yeah, it's finally I get to be not a mythical creature, which
dare I say, you get to become normal for once.
Yes, yeah, no prosthetic teeth. So we'll see how that goes.
And Georgia, I know obviously growing up in the UK and a UK actress, you obviously donned our shores here in Ireland a few times. And what were your memories? Have you any particular great stories or great highlights to enlighten our listeners, just a way in terms of linking you to us here in Ireland?
Yeah, well, I've come to Donegal a couple of times, or near Donegal, for a couple of modelling shoots, Fishermen's of Ireland. They're like a big cable knitwear company. And I did that quite a few years in a row, and it would be the winter time. It would be freezing cold, lots of rain. So that was always very challenging, but beautiful, absolutely. I couldn't believe how stunning it was. Yeah, I feel like there's a very magical sense in Ireland. Like you can understand why there's so much rich literature and art that comes out of Ireland. There's just that, I don't know, I did a few walks in one of the forests, and you can just sense something.
And Georgia, when you came obviously to Donegal, did you fly into Dublin or Shannon or Belfast? Where did you fly into?
Dublin and got the coach down to Donegal.
Got
And
the
then,
coach.
yeah.
Long bus journey, I imagine.
Was.
Long bus.
Yeah, it was. And then I've also I've taken a trip to Cork as well, for a trip with friends, which was really special too. So yeah, and my nana's parents are Irish, so I feel like there's always been that kind of connection to Ireland. They came over to Darlington, and that's where they settled.
Darlington and in the UK, as I say, once a proud sort of sporting place, but hopefully in the men's they're bound to make a comeback fairly soon. Georgia, before we start to wrap up now for the last 30 seconds, you might enlighten all our viewers and listeners again why they should tune in next week to watch Reginald the Vampire on Channel Sky Sci-Fi, which can be watched here not only in the UK but in Ireland as well. And over to the one and only Georgia Waters for the final 30 seconds, who plays the character Penelope in the new TV splash hit series, Reginald the Vampire.
Well, you should definitely watch Reginald the Vampire, because I feel like it's a very heartwarming and uplifting show that's also, it gets those who love vampire related stuff, but also it's got the comedy side, so it's very lighthearted, and I think that's something we all need in these cold winter months. And it offers a different type of hero as well. Reginald, Andres, played by Jacob Batalon, is a very charming anti-hero who, you know, he thinks the world is against him and realized actually he's got what it takes to help the world. So yeah, I think it will hopefully bring a smile to everyone's faces.
On that note, I'm sure it will. On that note, Georgia Waters, a pleasure having you on the airwaves this evening to talk about Reginald the Vampire. No doubt it'd be a huge success. Here's to you, and back to say Northern Canada in the near future. Obviously, few more projects in the pipeline. We look forward to hopefully getting you on again to speak to them about them someday in the near future. But for the moment, Georgia Waters, an absolute pleasure talking to you today. For me, Jim Conlan, stay safe, take care, God bless, and hopefully see you sometime again in the near future.
Thank you, and it's been a pleasure talking to you.
Georgia, take care.
Yeah, thank you.